Hey guys, welcome to CodeSwami. In the previous lecture, we talked about variables and data types, and it's now time to implement those. A short disclaimer before we start. If you're mad at me for doing no real coding up to this point, trust me, if I do that, it'll be like talking about writing a paragraph without you really knowing about sentences or alphabets. So, coming back to using variables, we start by writing a data type, int in this case. So, as you know, int means integer. And when we name our variable, I'll name it myInt. We defined or declared a variable named myInt. Using the equal to sign, I can give it a value like this, and this is called initialization. So when you give a value to your variable for the very first time, it's called initialization. You can also initialize your variable anywhere later in the code, like this, and do not forget the semicolon. So this is basically how we declare or define and initialize any variable. So coming to other data types, the first one we saw was Boolean. The keyword for Boolean is Boolean, and if you remember Boolean, it holds only binary values, that is either true or alternatively false. The next one is character, and the keyword for character is char. Char can hold a single character value like A, B, or C, or any other character enclosed in single quotes. If we use double quotes or try to store multiple characters, you will simply get an error. So we just used int a few seconds ago, and there's literally very less difference between int, short, byte, and long. The only difference in between them is the range of values they can store and the amount of memory they use. I'm typing the keywords followed by the values, and I'll display the range and size needed for the respective data types on the screen in front of them so you can have a look. Now, if you try to store fractional values like 21.234, anything like that, you cannot. For that, we use float and double. So the keyword for float is float, and you can add fractional values to it, and you write an F at the end of this value. Alternatively, you can use double. So the keyword for double is, you guessed it, double, and you can add the same type of values without the F, and the main difference will be clear when we print those two values. Let me just give them an absurd amount of digits so I can make the difference clear. So I forgot to mention this earlier. To print the value of a variable, you simply use the same statement, system.out.println, the same one we used in our first example, and then we simply write the variable name inside the brackets without any quotes. The basic difference is when you write something in quotes, it means it's a string or a sentence. And when you don't use the quotes, it means it's a name of a variable. And you will see it prints the value. The main difference that you see between float and double here is that the float value is clearly smaller, but we gave it a much bigger value, right? So this is where the difference between float and double comes. A float value can only hold up to 7 digits, um, and it uses less memory. Double can store up to 17 digits, but it uses more memory. So if you want a program that needs precision and memory is not a concern, double is the way to go. But if you have a limited amount of memory and you don't care about precision that much, float is a good data type to use. So this is pretty much about the primitive data types and their differences and how to use them. In the next video, we will discuss operators and we will use them in our code. If you liked the lecture, do give me a thumbs up and do consider subscribing. That way you will know whenever I upload a new lecture. I will also be linking down the PDF version of this lecture, so feel free to download that from the description below. I will be available on my Instagram handle, that is @CodeSwami. So in case you have any questions and queries, hit me up on Instagram and I'll answer your questions. Thank you for watching the lecture. I am Sri Ramtirth Goswami and I'll see you in the next one.